So I've decided and recognised, and I'm well aware of the fact that I waffle a lot. So I'm going to introduce a new format to these videos where whichever new technique or piece of advice or guidance that is here for everybody to learn a little bit more about playing their Native American style flutes, I shall deliver in the beginning of each video, and then I'll go on to various different ways that you might be able to implement that into your own practice, into your own skills, into your own little dittos or improvised playing, because that's when I have the most tendency to waffle. So here we go. What is the slide? So far, let's just have a quick recap. If you haven't seen the first two videos, we've done the three pieces of advice for approaching how to improve your improv and to improve your playing of such a beautiful Native American style flute. And then last week I walked you through how to implement or how to do a flutter and a pop and a pop and a hop. So they're just very, very simple tricks that you could learn, so please do go back and see those videos if you haven't so far. So today we are on to the slide, and by now you'll know that I do tend to introduce them for demonstrating purposes, but also the best way to practice these is to put them into a scale. So let's just work on the lower end of the scale for the purposes of this first demonstration, which is the slide. And the slide is as simple as you're going to start with your finger, whichever hole you decide to perform the slide on. This is probably the easiest one for me, at least. You start with your finger fully covering the hole, and throughout the course of the breath and delivering that note, you can slide it off in a few different ways. I think the easiest way to slide is to just move your finger both forward and off at the same time. So it just feels more gradual. If you open just sideways like this, it just seems a bit more aggressive, and there's a little bit of there's a call for that and a time and a place or whatever. But I think it's easier to go forward and off at the same time, and so it sounds like this. So you're just gently sliding from one note to the other, essentially. That's all there is to it. So let's put that into the scale, and we'll do that once, and we'll do that once on the way up and once on the way down the scale, just so that you can hear it playing. Not like that though. So it's a nice trick to just put in. It's a nice, just a gradual, it's quite a mellow. If you want to accentuate that a little bit more, there is something else that you can do, and we haven't been through the exercise of tonguing thus far, so we better throw it in here. But tonguing is when you put a little T or a D, depending on the size of your flute, really, and that's another video, but it's just an enunciation of that at the beginning of each note, rather than just going from one note to the other like this. Tonguing sounds like you do have to be careful at the bottom note, because sometimes it will jump octave if you tongue too aggressively. So tonguing at the beginning of a slide then sounds like this. It's really, really easy, and I do appreciate that these things take practice to get down, but when we break them down, each individual trick, little enunciation on the flute, they are really, really simple, and with practice become second nature, really. So let's just demonstrate that one more time, the difference between tonguing and not tonguing at the beginning of the slide. So without tonguing sounds like and with tonguing. So how do we implement that into our playing? Easy. Try it on every single finger. Find out for yourself which is the easiest notes for me to slide on. So some are much harder than others. This one, and probably your lowest finger on each hand, probably the hardest. There you go. Couldn't demonstrate it any better of how much more difficult that is. So it's definitely that bottom one for me, which is really difficult. So what do? I don't often play it at all. So have a little play around, introduce it into the scale, whichever. Let's go with the strongest finger. Just keep practicing up and down the scale. So do you prefer it? Which do you prefer it with the little T, the tonguing at the beginning of the note, or do you prefer it more gradual and just sliding off? It's all personal preference, all depends on your playing style, depends what mood you're in, how you're expressing yourself through your flute on any particular day. And so really, let's start including that, not just in the skill, but everything that you learn, everything that you witness from anybody else's videos or these tutorials here, just put them in amongst. Because I think even in the beginning when I was learning myself, there was always like 3 or 4 notes that I was stringing together. That was the beginnings of my sound, my improv, what I was making up just as something to play. So I'm always encouraging people to introduce the little tips and tricks into the skill, but also introduce them into what you already do as well. And then you'll see and hear and witness your own sound beginning to develop. And so as I was demonstrating the slide there, I noticed I was just breaking into a little pop at the end. So that was from the previous video. But it does demonstrate, and I'll do it again in a second, it does demonstrate how you begin to piece these things together. And all of a sudden, it's going from sounding basic to much more, well, I guess not necessarily complex, but accomplished maybe. And it really takes just a little bit of practice with each tip or trick to kind of get there, and then you start stringing them together, which is again what I end up putting these things into a scale for you, is so that you can you just get in the habit of delivering them wherever you are on the flute, and it becomes second nature to implement it into your own playing. So you can see all I'm really doing here, let's just play something simple, then I'll try and break it down for you what was actually done. So there at the top, I'm just sliding on here. So all I'm doing there is sliding off of this note, and I'm popping and hopping at the same time. So just popping would be landing on the same note, but a pop and a hop. So that's that one sound is 3 tricks really, 3 pieces of information at least to practice. One is the slide, and the sliding of the tongue. The pop is coming from there, and then you're landing on another one as a hop. So there you go, that is this slide. Please feel free to leave any comments. How can I make these videos clearer, easier to follow? Can you see the flute? Am I going slow enough? Am I going fast enough? I'd love to hear this feedback. Are they helpful, or just a thumbs up or whatever? But yes, thank you so much for tuning in once again. I'm also open to ideas. If you got to the end of this video, drop down ideas of what would you like me to demonstrate how to perform on the Native American style flute. I thought I'd use this one again today. I made this one actually last summer, this pine flute, and that was back before I was I'm more commission based now, so people kind of approaching me and having something bespokely made, but at the time I was making more and just selling. I was making from my own kind of inspiration, I guess, and moving them on. This one just stayed in my room and has been my flute, I guess, for quite a while, but somebody's just swung by and grabbed it at the same time of ordering a few rattles of mine as well, so feeling very blessed. It was a great week for me. Yeah, also obviously welcome any inquiries if anybody ever did want a beautiful bespoke made flute from me as well. So it's bye to this beautiful pine flute from me. I particularly loved the way actually that it demonstrates and has kept this feature on the bottom of how pine grows straight up towards the light year on year, and each year, even though it's one directional and it's straight up, each year it branches out in all directions from each branch, and from the main trunk itself just spreads its wings and tries going out in different, just to maximize its energy at that time of year. And I think there's always a lesson from trees to us humans in how we might achieve growth in this case, and I think putting your feelers out in all directions sometimes is necessary to find what resonates and what you can get your claws into, and what might help us get further towards the light, or the light within ourselves, or however you want to phrase that or interpret that is up to you. So there you go, there's an additional 2 minutes of waffle for you. Sending my love to everybody, and I'll see you next week.